And so you still had that going on. And then we had multifamily stuff that's happened since then. So we had a bunch of apartment activity, you know, the seasons at Cane Creek here on Highway 25. Then we got the not the cottages, but the, gosh, I'm forgetting the name of it. Right next to Fletcher Park, we have the new apartment complex going in. The Groves at Town Center, I think is a full name on it. So, but one thing that was constant through all that, even with the downturn in the housing and all that activity, is business still did pretty well here. And we had a bunch of our manufacturers that had expansions. We had one that I can note of that relocated from Greensboro to here, Legacy Paddle Sports, and I mentioned them in the slides. So I guess one common theme is Fletcher in our area here has been very, very fortunate, even through the downturn in the economy, because of a lot of things that this area has going for it to stay busy. So we still had a lot of activity. And I'm going to talk a little bit more on the manufacturing side. I know most of y'all are not employees at some of our manufacturers, but those are some big drivers of other activity that's happening here. So I just mentioned that because we're very fortunate that we've had the type of business climate that we've had, the type of activity, and some of the housing options that we have here. So with that, I'll go into a little bit on my observations and to kind of get you to past successes for the last couple of years and then into the future. I want to give you a little bit of background of kind of where we came from here, and I kind of call these first couple slides Fletcher fun facts. So, just a little bit about the town. So we incorporated in 1989, and I don't mean to give so much of just the town vision, but us government people have to think within jurisdictions. And I know this is a Fletcher Area Business Association, but it's kind of a big driver here with activity in the town. I'm going to give you a little bit more town-centric. But so we incorporated in 1989. It was partly a defensive incorporation. Asheville was very active in city-initiated or involuntary annexations moving south. So Fletcher incorporated, and then part of it was for services, and I'll mention Parks and Rec here in a second. So population at that time, about 2,800 residents. And then today we've grown to over 8,000 residents. 8,049 is our last official estimate. And we're still the fastest growing municipality in Western North Carolina. I've got on here 12% increase in population from 2010 to 2016. About a year ago this time, there was an article in the paper in the Times News, and it was funny that the headline said Hendersonville and then growth in the area. And I read the whole thing. I'm like, well, the biggest percentage of growth is happening here. But so they looked at population growth between 2010 and 2016, and they gave these percentage measures. And Hendersonville was 5.6, Asheville was 7%, Fletcher was 12%. Now I know the numbers aren't as big, but the percentage that growth is happening more rapidly here, and there's a lot of reasons why. A little more fun facts are as far as how big we are, where we are. Land area wise, we're 6.1 square miles, so we're not that big land area wise. And we have still undeveloped tracts in town. We may still do some voluntary annexation. Involuntary is pretty much dead, or town initiated annexations. But that annexation contributed a good amount to our growth. We've had some voluntaries that have contributed more on the residential growth side. And then before they changed the law about 6-7 years ago, we were active in town initiated. So we brought mostly businesses that were brought into the town. And one of the last notable ones was Continental Tevez, and then over in Continental Automotive Systems over in Broadpoint. And then once that happened, Mills River incorporated it. So it kind of blocked Fletcher growing that way. But that contributed a lot. Livingston Farms was a voluntary annexation. So that was a big part. And voluntary still is going to play a part, but that's changed a lot with the laws changing. So our first town department was Parks and Recreation. So y'all know recreation is a big deal to Fletcher. It is. I'm sure everybody in this room's been to Fletcher Community, or now called Bill Moore Community Park, formerly Fletcher Community Park. Fantastic facility. We love it. Very proud of it. As far as our budget for town operations, we're at $6.9 million. We've got 37 full-time employees. We're a full-service municipality. The only thing we don't provide that a lot of other municipalities do is water and sewer. You get your water predominantly from the city of Hendersonville, sewer from Cane Creek Sewer if you have sewer service in town. Our tax base, I point this out because business is a huge part of this, is over $1 billion tax base, or 1.1 billion. Which is pretty good for a municipality our size. But a big part of that is all that industry in the area and businesses like y'all that contribute to, it gave us a broad tax base that helps us to keep our tax rate down and provide the level of services that we do. I want to point out major industry in town, just because this is a big deal to that broad tax base, to these economic drivers. You may know a bunch of these, but I just got to run through. These are all in Fletcher, and there's a lot of manufacturing industry, bigger industry that's in Henderson County, but these are all ones in Henderson County, in Fletcher. So I mentioned Continental, we call them Continental Tevis, but they're Continental Automotive Systems. They make a ton of brake calipers. They're over in Broad Point Industrial Park. It's well over 1 million a year that they're producing out of there. We've had multiple expansions there where they've added personal property, machinery and equipment expansions, and then they've done a physical expansion of that plant. So that's been a big part of our economy. Meritor, they make heavy truck axles off of Rockwell Road. I think they said like 1 in every 6 trucks you pass on the interstate, their truck axles were made right there at Meritor. The plant itself's not in town, though, but all the land around it, that's a long story, is in Fletcher. Putsch is a German company that's on Cane Creek Road here, right near their end of our town limits. And they make these blades and other things that they design for sugar processing and sugar beets. It's really interesting and if you drive by there at night, it's a beautiful building. It's just this, I don't know what they did, this light design, and they were telling me the story of the designer they had in, but it's just this beautiful building there to see. It kind of really sticks out and it looks nice. So, Cane Creek Cycling Components is right across the street there, and they make brakes is one of their particular premium bicycling components, and this headset, which is a handlebar where the handlebar and the frame come together, and that tied together as a headset in there. Daystar Machining is right there on Cane Creek, and they do machining and specialty part production. Smart Track, that used to be part of Raflatac. That's right there in Cane Creek, and they make these RFID tags, which is radio frequency identification. And they're these little tiny things that go in products. So, like they'd be in your shirt at the store so that they can do an inventory and just kind of wave things so they can track it on trucks when it's being shipped. And got military applications for it. I'm sure some other scarier Big Brother things like RFID. So yeah, they got one for me for the town here, so they know where I'm at. So that's Smart Track. I'm gonna run through a couple others here, and I'll get into some successes and my other observations. Raflatac, y'all probably heard Raflatac. They have a plant in Broad Point Industrial Park, which is not in Fletcher other than Continental. And then they have one in Cane Creek. There used to be, Borg Warner used to be in that building, and they make these pressure sensitive labels. They make a ton of them between both facilities. Fletcher Business Park. Y'all, some of you have been here a long time. Remember the steel case was in that building. It was bought out, and Pulliam Properties owns it, and it's an over 900 square 900,000 square feet, almost 1 million square feet in that building, and they keep it pretty much leased out with lots of tenants. And we do have some manufacturing in there. Diamond Brand makes tents in that building, so they're one of their tenants. And so I call that area where Fletcher Business Park, and then some of these others I'm going to mention here. Cane Creek Industrial Park is kind of our other industrial park in town on Hills Gap Road. Wilson Art, they make laminate for countertops. They're back in there behind Fletcher Business Park in the industrial park. Borg Warner, they're right in there in that same area, and they make these fan components for cars, for automobiles. Blue Ridge Metals, which is right across the street there, just outside the industrial park, they make these tiny little metal pieces, cold forged metalling, that go into automobile parts. And I'm glad they're there because my son's working there right now until he goes to grad school. So I'm glad he's gainfully employed. So Blue Ridge has been there a long time, and they make a lot of these little metal parts. It's mostly to Honda and Toyota. They're a Japanese company, so they have strong ties to Japan and more Japanese automobiles. They're part of the Central Yoshida Corporation. Legacy Paddle Sports, and that's they're one of all these I mentioned. They're the only one that was a new one that came into town since I've been here 12 and a half years. And they were in Greensboro, and then they came here and they make kayaks, really nice kayaks. There's a couple more here. Fletcher Commerce Park, their Legacy Paddle Sports is on Old Airport Road, Fletcher Commerce Park, and they have multiple businesses in there. It's off a Continuum Drive. And just point out one, Earth Fair made their corporate office there. So there was a building at the end of the road that they bought the property. It looks really nice in there since they've remodeled. And so we're happy to keep Earth Fair here because they were looking for a location possibly outside of town. And they wound up going in the Commerce Park there. So that was great. Because they were in Fletcher Business Park. They were in the old Steelcase building, and they were going to move out. And then the last one I'm going to mention on this list, Village Commerce Park. That's on Old Airport Road, those multicolored metal buildings there that are pretty much all leased out. We affectionately call it Rainbow Row in the office because of the different colored buildings in there.
One print building?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And that's done well. I mean, I know for a while here we had a lot of vacancies with commercial spaces, so that they seem to be doing quite well in there. So these are all things that contribute to our local economy here. And so getting into successes over the last 2 years, and these are my observations based on things we can see that have happened here. The one at the end here I'll mention isn't. I mean, you can as it comes to fruition, but I'll get to that. So some of the successes, Blue Ghost Brewing, we're happy to have our first craft beer place in town on drop blank on our road over there, over on the northwest side of town. How many people have been Blue Ghost here? Yeah, they're doing great. They opened about 3 years ago. Underwood Road, sorry. They do this Blue Ghost Firefly Festival, and a bunch of groups of the New Fletcher Library partners have benefited our Parks and Rec department to get some of the proceeds from what's going on there. So that's been a nice little addition. The garage, so that's right here on 25. That's a pretty neat establish what they've done there. If anyone who's been in there, it's a really interesting mix of, I hate to use the word eclectic because it kind of makes it sound weird, but it's just neat home decor. I hate to say antiques, and they've been doing good things to promote their business and their products that are in there. And they have a little coffee shop at the end if you haven't seen that. This Hunter Automotive, I mentioned them. they're moving from Hendersonville, from the north side of Hendersonville on 25, and they're relocating in Fletcher next to Broadmoor. They're building 3 buildings out there. So their Hyundai, Subaru, and Volvo operations or dealership will be here.
Will that include the ones that are on like Spartanburg too, or just one for 25? I had heard they're moving all of their dealerships.
I don't know about Spartanburg. It might be. My understanding it was just from 25, but it may be.
They're not moving out. They're just Spartanburg.
Yeah, I think it's just 25. I have to know that. So that's that's a big deal. That's going on right now. They're under construction. I know this one was a little less popular. O'Reilly's Auto Parts. Nothing against O'Reilly's Auto Parts, but there was a historic home there that got torn down, and we don't. We work with the county if you want to voluntarily put a house on there that's historical and you get some tax credit for it, but it's a voluntary thing. We don't forcibly put people's homes that are historical nature on there. We will try and help and encourage, but it's a private property owner's decision if they want to sell their land. So it's a little unfortunate that got taken down, but we got the O'Reillys, and they seem to always locate near Advance. I heard that, so we've got the Advance across. So and the Shell, the last one on here on this slide, not Shell like the gas station, but Shell like is in a shell of the building. Right across the street here is the Shell building I'm mentioning. It's 8,000 square foot building. And we've got the first tenant that Habitat Restore is going in there. We just found that out. Water Dance Outdoor Creations. This is a landscaping installation maintenance that was just finished. It's on Mills Gap Road, almost near the town limits. Rockstar Marble and Granite, and that's under construction on Mills Gap right now. Carolina Drywall, they're recently built. They're in operation. That's right across from the industrial park there in Mills Gap. And then this last thing I'm going to mention on here, the Economic Investment Fund. The Partnership for Economic Development started this initiative, and the town and the county and some of the other municipalities in Henderson County are supporting this. They're basically running out of locations for industry recruitment, retention, or industrial spots or other types of business construction, and it's a challenge for them right now. The popularity and good job that they've done in recruiting business here now has become tough because they're having to look for places that could be potential business industrial sites. So they started this thing 3-4 years ago. The town's been putting $25,000 into it. The county's putting several $100,000 into it, and some of the other municipalities are participating. It's basically so they can identify potential industrial sites, get them pre-certified, which means how's the water and sewer to the site, what kind of environmental issues they're dealing with, zoning, all these things to get them ready if that's a good industrial site that they can market. I don't have more I wanted to have more to tell you about it, but it's still something that's a bit of a work in progress. I think they've had some benefit from it, but they're all the uses they're trying to narrow down for time here, so that they can get the best use out of it. They created a separate sub-organization within the partnership there for this. But we're excited about it. I think it was a good proactive thing they did to be thinking forward and doing this work to identify other industrial sites. Skip the slide here. Yep. So kind of my observations on the future of business in Fletcher. I think things are going to continue to be, I use the word robust, I think busy. We tried to get a contractor to fix the water line break at Town Hall, and you can't get anybody because they're all busy and it's days out. And we finally found someone who could come close to now as possible. And then they still got to get, the lines marked there so they don't dig down and do a gas line or something else. So, we tried to bid a Parks and Rec maintenance building project, and we put it out for bids. And the lowest bidder, we had three, I think we had at least three, was $400,000 higher than our budget, and council wound up tabling or rejecting it. We're going to come back to that project at some point. They want me to be looking at alternatives on it, but things are, they're really very busy right now, and I see good things for the area. We continue to be in a great strategic location for industry. I said recruitment, retention. We got good interstate access. I know I-26 is crazy right now, but we're about 2 years away from them adding, wait that long, additional lanes there to both sides of I-26. I-40, we have good water and sewer infrastructure, natural gas. We have rail access. That helps, especially if fuel prices start going back up, which they've started to. We have just on rail access at our industrial park there, at the King Creek Industrial Park, so behind the old Steel Capes building, Fletcher Business Park. There's a building there, if you've ever noticed it. It's a little rail spur. That was for Sierra Nevada, which it's not in town, but so they'll bring their grain product in and offload it at that little rail spur in the industrial park and then ship it over to the brewery there. So that was a kind of neat little economic development thing. But we get businesses that use rail. So our proximity to Asheville as a tourist destination, we continue to get, because this is such an incredible part, I'd say not just the state, but of the country to live. You get people vacationing out here and they see what a nice place this is to be, and they're moving their business here. So I think that's a big impact, a big driver for activity. And then our just other quality of life advantages. We have relatively low cost of services for local government. Our tax rate in the town is 34 cents. The county's is 56.5 cents. For those of you who have lived I grew up in the Midwest, in the Chicago area, and I talked to people back there, and I talked to people in the Northeast. And you take the same house here and plop it over there, and you're talking 3-4 times the tax bill. Granted, you have other amenities, and I'm not bragging about how ours is so, it's relatively low. We always have to manage that cost and the expectations, but you get a lot of bang for your buck here, and that's something that's just, we're very fortunate to have. Just few other thoughts here. Economic development efforts. I've talked about the Economic Investment Fund, but the partnership continues to do a great job of industry recruitment and retention. All those manufacturers I mentioned, almost all of them, with the exception of Legacy, were here, and they're staying here. One could close, something bad can happen. I can't make any guarantees. We've had multiple expansions, adding machinery and equipment or physical expansion at almost all of those manufacturers I mentioned. One thing I want to mention, potential limiting of residential development along Highway 25 corridor. I know a lot of the multifamily activity, or particularly the apartment activities, drawn some criticism or bad press a little bit with, well, how many apartments do you need in town here? Where are you going to put all these people and impact on the park and roads? And there's a demand. And I'll tell you, before that, we had very few apartment choices in Fletcher. So it's meeting a need, and there's demand for it. Otherwise, Southwood Realties of the world would build them here. But having said that, we want to take a little step back and look at potentially trying to protect some commercial areas of town. So Highway 25 is a big commercial corridor, particularly and I've got a map here on the next to show you of those properties that front on 25 be an important part of industry. But right now you can build an allowable use in that C1 is multifamily or apartments. So our planning board and council got together in July, and our planning and zoning director kind of look at ideas of maybe we want to limit multifamily housing or apartment Highway 25 because that's a big important commercial corridor. So that's kind of moving forward right now. They're going to look at our land use plan, updating it, and then amendments to our land development code to take that out as an allowable use. So to try and protect and promote business uses on there on Highway 25. And then here's just a little map just to kind of show you what I mean, you all know Highway 25 through here. It's not showing up on that board. But basically, everything on the red that you see there, so that fronts on Highway 25 is our, we call C1. It's a commercial zoning district. And then the brown is C2. And we were looking at making changes to our land use plan and land development code, more importantly, land development code, to take out multifamily as an allowable use in there to kind of protect that Highway 25 corridor right there, the red. And we might do the brown, which is up here near the airport. That's to be determined. That was not as fully received as well, but that may happen as also. I want to mention just really quickly, I know our FABA board members are sick of hearing me talk about the Highway 25 corridor improvements, but we're about to, September 10th, our contractor is going to start on a bunch of improvements to Highway 25, and it was part of a planning process where we wanted to look at what we can do to make our main corridor through town here complement what we're trying to do with the town center project and give it more of a downtown feel and traffic flow. So we went through a bidding process. We got grant funds for most of it, a little less than 80%. And we're going to be doing streetscape improvements, some traffic calming. And if you want to hear more about it, because I think I'm starting to run long here, I can tell you all the details about what that's going to look like at the end. It's going to take about 8 to 9 months, but we're starting September 10th on it. So the sidewalks are going to look different, some different tree plantings, some monumentations. We'll have a clock tower at Highway 25 and Fanning Bridge Road. So things are going to look different in there. But we think this will help complement our town center development efforts. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the heart of Fletcher Town Center, we own about 40 some acres of land. It's about 44 surrounding town hall for a mixed use development that we're doing to encourage commercial, residential, and some institutional uses. The town hall is the first institutional use. So, we're excited about that. There's some properties in front of it that we're active assembling right now that we'd like to turn over and make part of the rest of the project. So we're in active discussions with all those property owners right now. So that's kind of my observations, long-winded, on business in Fletcher. And I don't think I have to poke too many of you. Some of you are about to nod off probably there, but you did good.
It's all right. They have a couple questions.
Okay, we got questions.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're gonna start with the we're just gonna roll right into the first comment, that is, what is the purpose of the Highway 25 construction? How can we expect to be affected by it?
Okay. I think I kind of touched on it, is to give more of the down, and I'll tell you, I mentioned the streetscape. The traffic calming part is the outer travel lanes here. So the outer lane on the east and west side of the road, they're going to narrow that in a foot, and then that center turning lane a foot. I wanted to do grass medians and make that look prettier and safer too, but DOT wouldn't go on. DOT maintain roads, so we got to get it to go through them. But give it more of a downtown feel look, complement our town center, and help with the traffic flow to slow that down as well. We're looking at lowering the speed limit to 35. So, yeah, wish us luck on that. They're going awfully fast right now. But, so
you've already touched on this one already too, but do you have an update on Town Center, Heart of Fletcher? So I guess they're looking for more specifics.
Yeah, so we've been working with a company called Commercial Carolina as a developer, and Rob Settles are in contact with that, and Rob's been active trying to find a partner to help us with. We've done a lot of master planning on it, but to get some tenants in there and some further ideas, we're going to do a library still. That's moving forward, and we want to have a community college presence in there, or university, and so we're still in discussions with Blue Ridge Community College. But the properties in front of it, which we want to incorporate, we've got there's a section between Howard Gap and Fanning Bridge Road on that east side of the road, so right in front of Town Hall, that we're in the process of working with the landowners trying to acquire. We've got options on several of them right now. So that's kind of the latest. And they've got then specific plans once you acquire that to turn that over for some retail uses. So.
Thanks.
Yep.
How do you see Fletcher in relation to Hendersonville and Asheville?
We're kind of a bedroom community a little bit to Asheville. We've got a lot going for us as far as the industry I've talked about, and residential housing choices, things like that, and some reasonably priced. It's just, continued commercial growth, but our development in our downtown area, we really want to see that happen so that we've got nice amenities for all of you to go and enjoy, somewhere else to eat lunch, connected to our park. That's kind of the one thing that's really different about us. We don't have that kind of real established downtown area. I compare it to the other two.
Are you in communication with Buncombe County regarding repurposing or demolishing the eyesore building that was CVS, Go Grocery, etc.?
We are not. We've complained to them, but like certain limitations that local government has, I don't know what they've done from a code enforcement, but we don't like it either. I've called and complained. Is there anything? It's unincorporated Buncombe County. Is there anything they can do to, I don't know what, condemn if they've got condemnation ordinance to do that in place? But that's not in town. But we have complained to them. Where's that? It's just
Go Grocery, CVS,
north of-
Pizza Hut, whatever it used to be.
Yeah.
I think Beef O'Brady's is still in there.
Brady's is still there.
Well,
Better than they ever have.
the only thing, Watkins Road is where that's at.
Yeah, Watkins, right? Watkins. So we don't like it either. I hate to see that coming into almost our town limits, but I'll complain again to Buncombe County if they've got anything on the books to handle it.
All right, last question, and we still got some time, so we might take some more. What things are being done to promote home building in the area?
Promote it. I don't know. We're doing, we continue to review our land development code to make sure that's consistent. There are opportunities for home development. Beyond that, a lot of that's kind of market driven, and we haven't had a lot of problems with people who are interested in doing residential development, getting that done. We think we have good land development code. We think it's reasonable. We hear a lot from Asheville. I'm going to pick on Asheville that, you guys are a lot better to work with than Asheville is. Part of that is we don't have, the level of regulation that they're going to have in hoops to jump through. And so that's part of it. But, we do want to be business friendly. We do want to be fair to residential developers. not give the road away. We there's a lot of things we got to say no to, or you might need to do that differently. But our planning and zoning director does a really good job communicating these things when they meet with people.
How does FABA fit into Fletcher's future and success? Do you want all businesses in Fletcher to be FABA members? Yes, he does.
Yes. Yes and yes.
Yes, he does.
That was a can.
Yeah.
That was a softball right there.
Like an hour ago.
Yeah, that's good.
Pass it up now.
Yeah, I was asking our deputy tax collector, I think we're a little less than 600 on these business registrations that we send out. So, yeah, it'd be nice that all of them, yeah, you can take this. Yeah, I think that was everything. I think we're done.
While they're doing that, I'm going to apologize for any misspellings on here.
I mean, we encourage it. Business is important. I've been on the board longer than anybody, and so yes.
Do you know the number of employees of major industries in Fletcher? Or I guess any numbers for employment?
Let's see, I've heard Wilson Art is in the, I want to say 500 range. That might be less than that now. They were, and maybe still are, our largest private employer. And then I think next is probably Meritor. But yeah, total numbers, it's probably, I guess altogether, several thousand, probably at least 2,000 of all those industries I've mentioned combined.
The Warner one's got to have over 300.
Or Warner. I haven't heard the latest on how many. I mentioned Wilson Art and Meritor. Sorry.
So we're looking for clarification on, I guess, I-26, when the road will be finished? And how long, I guess?
Yeah, I think 2019. So I think next year they're starting final design, right-of-way acquisition. And then I believe it's in 2020 to let it for bid and start construction. Hopefully they won't run into big environmental hurdles. And they ran into that before the whole, it's Asheville, and they're trying to do stuff through their environmental review in Henderson County too. That back things up a lot. The I-26 connector really messed up.
So there's not a lot of us that live in town in this room, I don't think, but what does it do to the taxes? All of this stuff coming into taxes happening like that.
I don't know. I don't think taxes. I mean, the more that when you say coming, you mean just business?
Well, I mean, all of the road things and all of the other, everything that costs money.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of those things they're state funded, the road stuff. So,
I'm paying for it.
yeah, we're all paying for it. All North Carolina's paying for that. Yeah, we're spreading the wealth on that, or the impact. So a lot of that's state funded, David.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's impacting our local tax rate, other than there's just more stuff going on. We're going to get more calls for service, for police, for public works is mostly on the resident. We don't do a lot for businesses on the public, other than maintaining the roads that we do. We do have town maintained roads. We have a little over 23 miles of roadway, and we get special funding apart from the rest of our budget. It's called Powellville funds that we get from the state to resurface the local roads that we maintain. So mostly in the subdivisions, the town maintained roads.
What's the story of the tomato field adjacent to Fletcher Park? Who owns it? Could some of the rejected tomatoes be donated to food bank instead of left rotting in the field?
I'd have to ask.
Wow.
Blue Ridge Metals owns that field. And we tried to get part of that from them, but interesting on I guess in Japanese culture, 8 is important, the number 8. It's like a superstitious thing or something, or someone's heard it, yes. And I think it's like 80 acres. So they want to keep it at that number until they've been farmed. But it's Blue Ridge Metals owns the field, and I mean they didn't have to communicate with us whatever crop they want to put on there. So I'd have to talk to them to see if they would on the tomatoes and donating it.
So their cafeteria is tomato sandwiches every day?
Yeah.
Yes.
If they got them early enough, fried green, if they pulled them early enough from the field, yeah.
Yeah, fried green tomatoes, that sounds good.
Mm.
What is the best way for the business community members to assist and promote town of Fletcher with economic growth?
That's a good question.
What was that again, one more time?
Yeah, what is the best way for the business community members to assist and promote town of Fletcher with economic growth?
I guess just speaking to the good things about the town that they observe. It's a good place to be, good place to live, good place to do business. So I guess all those little things like that.
Come to the library event, this and that.
Yeah, come to the library event,
Anything else?
donate money. We're trying hard. I'm part of that new Fletcher Library partnership, and we've been going around to the manufacturers. I'm on this subcommittee, and I give them a little dog and pony about the town center project and the library. We've donated we've made land available for those who don't know for the library to build a new library there, and so we've made land available. We've trying to get the Blue Ridge Community College to build a facility there because they've got in their capital improvement plan to do something geared towards the manufacturers for training, which workforce development. I'm sure all you have to deal with getting qualified employees, and workforce development is a big deal, big challenge right now. Is getting people that have the job skills and then getting their existing employees ongoing training. So we're going around the manufacturers trying to get them to help towards the new Fletcher Library partners to demonstrate support from private industry, to show the commissioners, because we're trying to get the commissioners, the Henderson County Board of Commissioners, to help with capital dollars because it is a county library. So even though it just happens to be in the town of Fletcher.
Are there any questions that we need clarifying on? If you have anything that you want Mark to clarify on? Yeah.
Well,
When will Howard Gap Road be completed?
it's supposed to be done in next month. Their date was September 18th. I don't know how in the world they're going to hit that. I think it's going to go longer. They added some turn lane. I just found it out going to some DOT meeting. But they want to do some type of turn lane at Jackson Road, which I'd never heard that, a turn lane in there. Not that it doesn't need it, but at the Jackson Road intersection, a turn lane. So that added a design thing that's still redesigned. It's delayed it because I thought it would have been blacktop by now, resurfaced, and yeah, September 18th was their deadline. But I think it's going to go to probably early October before it's done. Yeah, that one's been a real pain with the apartment complex going on, and I know that's been an inconvenience for people that use Howard Gap Road.
All right, last chance. Thank you guys for your great questions.
Yeah, good questions.
Mark, any closing
Thank you.
statements for us? Anything?
No, I'm happy to be a part. The town's a great place to work for. Been very fortunate to be here. I worked for a county before I came here. I was a county manager in the eastern part of the state. This is just it's a great place to live. It's a good place to work. So I'm just fortunate to be here, and I'm happy to be a part of FABA to support business, because this is the lifeblood for local government, for communities, is healthy businesses. So thank you for the opportunity.
All right, thank you guys for coming. as always, Jesse's got something to say? No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you, guys. Do we have any first-time FABA visitors in the room? Anybody never been to a FABA event before? Yeah. Introduce yourself.
I'm just a resident. I'm
Just a resident.